The sun was setting over the rolling hills of Colorado Territory, casting long shadows across the dusty streets of Willow Creek. But for Virginia Harrington, the fading light brought only dread as she paced the confines of the parlor where her father had imprisoned her until tomorrow's wedding ceremony. Virginia's hands trembled as she picked up the letter again, the one she'd received this morning from her father, announcing her imminent marriage to Leopold Blackwell, a man 30 years her senior with a reputation as cruel as he was wealthy. At 21, Virginia had hoped to marry for love someday, but her father's gambling debts had sealed her fate. "I won't do it," she whispered fiercely to the empty room, her reflection in the window revealing tear-stained cheeks framed by honey-blonde hair escaping its pins. "I cannot marry that monster." The parlor door was locked from the outside, the key in her father's pocket. Her mother, weak-willed and fearful of George Harrington's temper, had brought Virginia supper on a tray, avoiding her daughter's pleading gaze before hurrying out. The wedding dress hung in the corner like a shroud, ivory silk and lace that would have been beautiful for a joyful bride, not a woman being sold to cover her father's debts. Virginia pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the window. The parlor was on the ground floor of their modest home, facing the side yard where her mother's prized roses climbed trellises. Beyond lay open country, freedom if only she could reach it. A soft whistle from the darkness startled her. Virginia squinted, her heart pounding as a figure emerged from the shadows. Tall and broad-shouldered, he moved with the easy grace of a man accustomed to the saddle. His hat was pulled low, but she recognized him immediately: Adam Mackenzie. The local ranch hand who'd caught her eye months ago at the general store, who'd tipped his hat and smiled with dimples that made her knees weak. They'd exchanged glances at church services and town gatherings, shared brief conversations that had left Virginia dreaming of possibilities. But her father had forbidden any association with a penniless cowhand. "Adam," she whispered, unlatching the window. He approached, moonlight revealing his handsome face with its strong jaw and kind eyes. "Miss Virginia," he said softly, "I heard talk in town about your wedding tomorrow." "Talk that said you weren't entering into it willingly." Virginia swallowed hard. "My father arranged everything. Mr. Blackwell is settling his debts in exchange for me." Her voice broke on the last words. Adam's expression darkened. "That ain't right. No woman should be traded like cattle." He hesitated only briefly before continuing. "I've got my horse saddled and provisions packed. I can take you away from here if you're willing." Virginia's heart thundered in her chest. "You would do that for me?" "I'd do a sight more than that for you, Miss Virginia." His voice was steady, but she could see the emotion in his eyes. "Been watching you from afar too long to stand by while you're forced into something so wrong." She glanced back at the parlor door, knowing what accepting his offer would mean. She would be labeled a runaway, her reputation in tatters. Yet staying meant a lifetime shackled to Leopold Blackwell, a man known for mistreating his previous wives, both now conveniently deceased. "There's no time to waste," Adam urged. "Your pa's over at Blackwell's place discussing final arrangements. They'll be coming back soon enough." Virginia made her decision in an instant. "Help me through." Adam's strong hands reached through the open window, and Virginia gathered her skirts, climbing onto the windowsill. The window frame was narrow, but she managed to squeeze through with Adam's assistance, tumbling into his arms as her feet touched the ground. For one breathless moment, they stood close enough that she could feel his heartbeat matching her own frantic rhythm. "This way," he whispered, taking her hand. Together they crept through the garden, past the roses her mother had tended so lovingly. Virginia felt a pang of guilt for leaving without saying goodbye, but her mother had stood by during all of her father's schemes and cruelties. This time, Virginia was choosing herself. At the edge of the property waited Adam's horse, a sturdy palomino gelding that nickered softly as they approached. Adam helped Virginia mount, then swung up behind her with the ease of a man born to the saddle. His arms encircled her as he took the reins, and despite the danger of their situation, Virginia felt safer than she had in months. "Where will we go?" she asked as they rode away from the only home she'd ever known. "I've got a friend with a homestead about 30 miles north," Adam replied. "He'll give us shelter while we figure out what comes next. That is, if you're sure about this, Miss Virginia. Once we leave, there's no going back." Virginia thought of Leopold Blackwell's cold eyes and grasping hands during their brief introduction. Of her father's callous disregard for her happiness, of the life that awaited her as little more than property to be used and discarded. "I'm sure," she said with newfound determination. "And please call me Virginia. I think we're past formalities now." Adam's soft chuckle warmed her. "Virginia it is, then." They rode through the night, the vast Colorado wilderness opening before them. Stars blazed overhead, uncountable pinpricks of light that seemed to promise possibilities. Virginia had never been out alone at night, much less on horseback with a man her father would consider unsuitable. Yet for the first time in years, she felt the constriction around her heart easing. Dawn was breaking when they reached a creek where Adam suggested they rest. He helped her down from the horse, his hands lingering at her waist a moment longer than necessary. Virginia felt her cheeks flush but didn't pull away. "You must be exhausted," he said, leading the Palomino to water. "Strangely, I'm not," Virginia replied, stretching her sore muscles. "I feel alive." Adam smiled, and those dimples she'd admired from afar made her heart flutter. Freedom has that effect. He dug into his saddlebags and produced jerky, hardtack, and a canteen. "It's not fancy fare, but it'll keep us going." They sat beside the creek, sharing the simple meal as the world awakened around them. Birds called from nearby trees, and the bubbling water provided gentle accompaniment to their conversation. "How did you know?" Virginia finally asked. "About the wedding, I mean." Adam's expression turned serious. "I deliver supplies to the saloon where your father gambles. Overheard him boasting to the barkeep about solving his financial troubles by marrying his daughter off to Blackwell." His jaw tightened. "The way he spoke of you, like you were just another poker chip." "I couldn't bear it." Virginia stared at her hands. "He's always seen me that way, an asset to be leveraged when needed." She looked up, meeting Adam's gaze. "But why would you risk everything to help me? You could be charged with kidnapping." "Can't kidnap someone who comes willingly," he replied with a small smile that quickly faded to seriousness. "Truth is, Virginia, I've watched you for months now. The kindness you show to everyone in town, even those others look down on. How you sneak books to those children whose parents can't afford schooling. You deserve better than being traded away to settle a debt." His honesty touched something deep within her. "I've noticed you too," she admitted softly. "Whenever you came into town, I'd find excuses to be at the general store or walking past the livery." A blush crept across Adam's tanned cheeks. "Reckon we've been circling each other for some time then." The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken possibilities, until Adam cleared his throat and stood. "We should keep moving. Your father will have noticed your absence by now." They continued northward, Adam pointing out landmarks and sharing stories of his adventures throughout the territory. Virginia drank in every word, every new sight. She'd lived in Willow Creek her entire life, her world confined to the town's boundaries by her father's controlling nature. "How did you come to Colorado?" she asked as they rode through a mountain pass, the air cooler at the higher elevation. "Came west after the war," Adam replied, his voice taking on a distant quality. "Lost my parents young, then fought for the Union when I was barely 18. After seeing so much death, I wanted open spaces and honest work." He paused. "Started as a cattle driver, then worked my way up to foreman at the Rockingham Ranch outside town." "Foreman," Virginia turned slightly to see his face. "But my father always called you a drifter, a nobody." Adam's laugh held no bitterness. "Your father sees what he wants to see. I may not have Blackwell's fortune, but I've saved enough to buy a small spread of my own someday, just waiting for the right land. and the right reason to put down roots. His words hung in the air between them, laden with meaning that made Virginia's heart beat faster. By midday, dark clouds gathered on the horizon. Adam frowned at the sky. "Storm's coming. We need to find shelter." The rain began just as they reached a small abandoned trapper's cabin tucked among pine trees. Adam helped Virginia dismount and led the horse to a lean-to beside the cabin before they hurried inside. The single-room structure was dusty but intact, with a stone fireplace and rough-hewn furniture. "Not exactly the Grand Hotel," Adam said apologetically, shrugging off his damp coat. Virginia smiled, wringing water from her skirt hem. "It's perfect." While Adam built a fire, Virginia explored the tiny cabin, a table, 2 chairs, a narrow bed with a straw mattress in one corner. Simple, but infinitely preferable to the gilded cage that would have been her marriage to Leopold Blackwell. The fire caught, filling the cabin with warm light and the comforting scent of pine. Outside, rain pounded the roof and lightning flashed across the darkened sky. Adam rummaged through his saddlebags and produced a small package wrapped in oilcloth. "We won't starve," he announced, unwrapping salt pork and cornmeal. "There's a skillet here we can use." They worked together, preparing a simple meal, moving around each other in the confined space with growing ease. Virginia had never cooked before her family had servants for such tasks, but she found herself enjoying the work under Adam's patient guidance. "You're a natural," he said as she successfully flipped a cornmeal cake in the skillet. Virginia laughed. "I think you're being kind, but I appreciate the sentiment." They ate sitting on the floor before the fire, the storm raging outside making their shelter feel intimate, separate from the world. Virginia found herself studying Adam's profile, the way the firelight played across his features. He was handsome in a rugged way that Leopold Blackwell's manicured appearance could never match. "What will happen when they come looking for us?" she finally asked, voicing the fear that had lurked beneath her newfound freedom. Adam's expression grew serious. "Your father will be furious and Blackwell even more so. Men like them don't take kindly to losing what they consider theirs." He reached out, hesitantly taking her hand. "But I won't let them take you back, Virginia. Whatever comes, we'll face it together." The simple promise, delivered with such quiet certainty, brought tears to her eyes. All her life, she'd faced her father's mercurial moods and machinations alone. The thought of having someone stand beside her was overwhelming. "Thank you," she whispered, squeezing his hand. After their meal, the exhaustion of their journey finally caught up to Virginia. Her eyelids grew heavy as she stared into the flames. "Take the bed," Adam said, noticing her fatigue. "I'll sleep by the fire." Virginia glanced at the narrow cot, then back at him. "Are you certain?" "You must be tired as well." "I've slept in worse places," he assured her with a smile. "Rest now. Tomorrow we'll reach my friend's homestead." Virginia was too tired to argue. She lay down on the simple bed, pulling Adam's spare blanket over herself. Despite the straw mattress and rough surroundings, she fell asleep almost instantly, lulled by the rain on the roof and the sense of safety Adam's presence provided. She woke sometime in the night, disoriented before remembering where she was. The fire had burned low, casting the cabin in soft, flickering light. Adam sat against the wall, his hat pulled low, but his breathing told her he was awake. "Can't sleep?" she asked softly. He looked up, surprised. "Just keeping watch, old habits from the war." Virginia sat up, drawing the blanket around her shoulders against the night chill. "Tell me about your dreams, Adam, the spread you want to buy someday." A smile touched his lips. "It's not grand, just a few hundred acres with good water and grazing land, a small herd to start. A sturdy house built by my own hands." His voice grew softer. "A place where children could grow up free, learning to ride and read with equal importance." The vision he painted was simple but beautiful, so different from the suffocating wealth Leopold Blackwell had promised her. "It sounds wonderful," she said sincerely. Adam studied her for a long moment. What about you, Virginia? What dreams did you have before all this? The question caught her off guard. No one had ever asked about her dreams before. I wanted to teach, she admitted. I love books and learning. The school in Willow Creek has been without a proper teacher for years. She laughed softly. Father called it a foolish notion, said no man would want a wife with her nose always in a book. Your father's wrong about a great many things, Adam said, his voice gentle but firm. Teaching is an honorable calling, and the right man would value your mind as much as your beauty. His words warmed her more than the fire. Perhaps someday, she said, though the chances seemed remote now that she was a runaway. The storm passed during the night and they set out at first light. The world seemed washed clean, the air fresh and the forest vivid with color. Virginia felt reborn as well, each mile increasing the distance from her old life. By mid-morning they reached a valley where a modest homestead nestled beside a stream. Smoke curled from the chimney of a log house and fields of young corn stretched behind it. A man was working in the dooryard but stopped and waved when he spotted them approaching. That's Daniel Cooper, Adam explained, fought alongside him during the war. He and his wife Sarah have been working this land for 5 years now. Daniel greeted them warmly, his weathered face breaking into a smile when Adam explained their situation. Any friend of Adam's is welcome here, he assured Virginia, leading them inside where his wife was tending to their young daughter. Sarah Cooper was a kind-faced woman with practical hands and a warm heart. She provided Virginia with clean clothes and a chance to bathe while the men discussed what to do next. Your father's put out word already, Daniel told Adam when Virginia rejoined them at the kitchen table. Riders came through yesterday with notices. Says you abducted his daughter and he's offering a reward for her safe return. Virginia's stomach clenched. How much? $500, Daniel replied grimly. Enough to tempt folks who are struggling. That kind of money will bring bounty hunters, Adam said, his expression darkening. We can't stay here long, Daniel. I won't bring trouble to your family. You'll stay tonight at least, Sarah insisted. Virginia needs rest and we need to plan carefully. That night, after a simple but hearty dinner, Virginia sat on the porch with Sarah while the men checked the perimeter of the property. The Cooper's daughter, Emma, had taken an immediate liking to Virginia and now slept peacefully in her arms. You care for him, Sarah observed quietly, nodding toward Adam's distant figure. Virginia didn't pretend to misunderstand. Is it that obvious? Sarah smiled. Only to another woman who recognizes the look. She glanced toward her husband. Daniel was my brother's friend when they enlisted. After my brother fell at Gettysburg, Daniel brought his personal effects home to us. He was broken then, haunted by what he'd seen. Her voice softened. We healed each other, building this life one day at a time. Adam and I barely know each other, Virginia protested gently. Sometimes the heart recognizes what belongs to it before the mind catches up, Sarah replied. Adam Mackenzie is a good man, one of the best Daniel and I have known, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Virginia's cheeks warmed, but before she could respond, the men returned to the porch. All quiet, Daniel reported, taking his sleeping daughter from Virginia's arms. But we should all rest. Tomorrow will bring decisions. Virginia was given the small bedroom normally occupied by Emma, who would sleep with her parents. As she prepared for bed, a soft knock came at her door. Virginia? Adam's voice was low. May I speak with you a moment? She opened the door, her heart quickening at the serious expression on his face. Daniel received word from a friend in town, he said without preamble. Your father and Blackwell are offering more than just money now. They've convinced the sheriff that I kidnapped you against your will. There's a warrant for my arrest. Virginia's hand flew to her mouth. That's absurd. I left willingly. Your father claims I bewitched you or some such nonsense. Point is, we're in more danger than I thought. Bounty hunters are one thing, but lawmen are another. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she was beginning to recognize as a sign of his frustration. I'm thinking we should head for Wyoming territory. I know people there who can help us start fresh. Wyoming, Virginia repeated, testing the word. A place she'd only read about, farther from everything familiar than she'd ever been. Adam must have sensed her hesitation. I know it's asking a lot. You'd be leaving everything behind, your mother, your home, everything you've known. He looked directly into her eyes. I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to go back, Virginia. Tell them I forced you. You could still salvage your reputation, maybe even— No, she interrupted firmly. I'm not going back to be sold like property. If Wyoming offers a chance at freedom, then that's where I want to go. She took a deep breath. With you, the tension in Adam's shoulders eased and something like hope flickered in his eyes. It won't be easy. We'll be starting with nothing but what we can carry. I don't need things, Adam, Virginia said softly. These past 2 days have shown me that. I need freedom to choose my own path, to be valued for who I am, not what I represent. He reached out slowly, as if giving her time to pull away, and touched her cheek. You are the bravest woman I've ever known, Virginia Harrington. Morning brought a flurry of activity. Sarah packed food and supplies while Daniel gave Adam information about safe routes north. Virginia was helping wrap bread when she heard horses approaching. Daniel peered out the window and cursed softly. Riders coming, 4 of them. He turned to Adam. Take Virginia out the back way. There's a ravine that leads to the stream. Follow it west and it'll bring you to the old mining trail. Adam nodded grimly, grabbing their packs. Thank you, brother, I won't forget this. We'll stall them, Sarah promised, hugging Virginia quickly. Go now. They slipped out the back door and ran toward the tree line, keeping low. Virginia's heart pounded as she heard male voices at the front of the house. They reached the ravine just as someone shouted, "Check the barn." This way, Adam urged, helping her down the steep embankment to where the stream cut through the land. They waded through the shallow water, using the overhanging foliage for cover. Virginia's skirts grew heavy and sodden, slowing her progress, but Adam's steady hand kept her moving forward. Behind them, a gunshot cracked the morning stillness. Just a warning shot, Adam assured her, seeing her terrified expression. Daniel won't let them follow easily, but we need to hurry. They traveled for hours, following the stream until it joined a wider river, then cutting overland toward the mining trail Daniel had mentioned. By nightfall, Virginia was exhausted, her feet blistered despite the sturdy boots Sarah had given her. Adam found them shelter in a stand of pines, building a small, nearly smokeless fire and preparing a meal from their provisions. We've covered good ground today, he told her. If we maintain this pace, we can reach Wyoming in a week. Virginia nodded, too tired for words. The reality of their situation weighed heavily. They were fugitives now, with lawmen and bounty hunters on their trail. Adam studied her across the fire. Having second thoughts? No, she said firmly, meeting his gaze. Just realizing what this all means. There's no going back now, is there? No, he agreed quietly. But forward isn't such a bad direction, Virginia, she managed to smile. No, it isn't, not with the right companion. The following days fell into a pattern. They traveled from dawn until dusk, staying off main trails and avoiding settlements. Adam taught Virginia how to move quietly through wilderness, how to identify edible plants to supplement their dwindling supplies, how to read the land and sky for signs of weather and direction. At night, they would make camp and talk for hours. Virginia learned about Adam's childhood in Pennsylvania, his time in the army, his dreams for the future. In turn, she shared stories of her mother's quiet rebellions against her father's tyranny, her own secret passion for education, and the books that had been her escape from the confines of her restricted life. With each passing day, the connection between them deepened. What had begun as a desperate flight was transforming into something neither had anticipated: a partnership based on mutual respect and growing affection. On the 6th night of their journey, they camped near a hot spring hidden in a rocky outcropping. Adam had gone hunting, returning triumphantly with a rabbit that they roasted over their fire. A feast fit for a queen, he declared, offering Virginia the choicest portion. She laughed, accepting the meat. "If I'm a queen, what does that make you?" "Your loyal subject," he replied with exaggerated formality that made her laugh again. After they'd eaten, Adam turned serious. "Virginia, there's something I need to ask you." The tone of his voice made her heartbeat quicken. "Yes. When we reach Wyoming, things will be different. We'll be starting new lives." He hesitated. "I know this all happened so fast. You were escaping a forced marriage and I was the means of that escape. I don't want you to feel obligated to stay with me if that's not what you truly want." Virginia felt a knot form in her stomach. "Are you saying you want us to part ways?" "No," he said quickly, reaching for her hand. "God, no. What I'm trying to say badly, it seems, is that I care for you, Virginia, more than I thought possible in such a short time. But I want you to be free to choose your own path, not just trading one man's plans for another's." The sincerity in his eyes moved her deeply. This was what separated Adam from her father and Leopold Blackwell. He saw her as a person with her own desires and dreams, not as property to be controlled. "Adam," she said softly, shifting closer to him, "my father tried to sell me to settle a debt. You risked everything to help me escape. Do you really think I don't know the difference?" She placed her hand against his cheek. "These days with you have been the freest, most honest of my life. Whatever path I choose, I want you beside me on it." For a moment, he seemed unable to speak, his eyes searching hers. Then slowly, giving her time to pull away, he leaned forward and kissed her. The contact was gentle at first, a question more than a demand. Virginia answered by moving closer, her arms finding their way around his neck. The kiss deepened, and she lost herself in the sensation of being truly wanted for exactly who she was. When they finally parted, both breathless, Adam rested his forehead against hers. "I think I've been falling in love with you since the first time I saw you in the general store," he confessed. Virginia smiled, her heart so full it felt it might burst. "And I've been falling in love with you since you appeared at my window and offered freedom." They reached Wyoming territory 3 days later, crossing the border as the sun rose over the mountains. Adam knew of a small settlement where a former Army friend had established a trading post. They arrived dusty and travel-worn, but jubilant at having reached their destination safely. Theodore Jackson, Adam's friend, welcomed them warmly, offering lodging and introducing them to the small community. Within days, Virginia found herself helping at the settlement's tiny school, while Adam took work guiding new settlers to promising homestead lands. 2 weeks after their arrival, on a crisp autumn evening, Adam asked Virginia to walk with him to a ridge overlooking the valley where the settlement nestled. "What do you think?" he asked, gesturing to a flat expanse of land stretching from the ridge toward a distant creek lined with cottonwoods. Virginia surveyed the property, confused. "It's beautiful land. Is someone planning to homestead here?" "I am," Adam replied, watching her face closely. "Theodore helped me file the claim yesterday, 160 acres under the Homestead Act." He took her hands in his. "It's good land, Virginia, room for cattle, horses, fields for crops, and that rise there with the view of the mountains, that would make a fine place for a house." Understanding dawned and Virginia's eyes widened. "Adam." He knelt before her, still holding her hands. "I know we've only known each other a short while, but I've never been more certain of anything. I love you, Virginia Harrington. Would you do me the honor of becoming my wife? Not because of circumstances or convenience, but because you choose to, freely and completely." Tears filled Virginia's eyes as she looked at this man who had risked everything to save her, who had shown her what love truly meant, not possession or control, but partnership and respect. "Yes," she said, her voice clear and certain. "Yes, Adam Mackenzie, I will marry you." He stood and pulled her into his arms, kissing her with all the passion and promise of their future together. They married 2 weeks later in Theodore's trading post, the small community gathering to celebrate. Virginia wore a simple blue dress instead of the elaborate wedding gown that had awaited her in Willow Creek. and found she had never felt more beautiful than when Adam looked at her with love shining in his eyes as they spoke their vows. By spring, they had built a small cabin on their land and planted their first crops. Virginia started a school in their front room, teaching the children of neighboring homesteaders. Adam's small herd of cattle grew steadily, and with each passing season, their home and their love deepened roots in Wyoming soil. One evening, as they sat on their porch watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and crimson, Virginia rested her head on Adam's shoulder, her hand cradling the gentle swell of her belly where their first child grew. "You ever regret it?" Adam asked softly, his arm tightening around her. Leaving everything behind. Virginia thought of the parlor where she'd been locked, of the loveless marriage that had awaited her. Then she looked at their home, built with love and hard work, at the land that had become truly theirs, at the life they were creating together. "Not for a single moment," she answered truthfully, turning to kiss him as the first stars appeared in the darkening sky. "You didn't just carry me out a window, Adam Mackenzie. You showed me a whole world I never knew existed, one where I'm free to love and be loved exactly as I am." As night fell over their homestead, Virginia knew with absolute certainty that sometimes the bravest choice a person could make was to leap into the unknown. In her case, that leap through a parlor window into the arms of a cowboy with kind eyes and a steadfast heart had carried her home.